Alright, hey everybody. Um, Working on the rigging, the flying wires. You see I have the left wing completed. So all the pre-attached wiring at the top, the thread that I was using was pre-attached at the upper wing, and it's now attached at the lower wing where I had drilled it out. Except for the landing gear attachment there, which is a wrap at the top of the oleo strut, the suspension strut. Over here on the right wing, I've got most of it done. I left the last one open. I wanted to hopefully show you how this works. So I cut these with about 4 inches to spare. That means about 4 inches longer than they need to be. And then what I do is I trim them close. I leave about maybe 1.5 or 2 inches of excess here, if you can see that. The hole is right here at the base of the strut here. And what I'm doing too, it's important to note that we work from the back to the front. In other words, I started with the rearmost upper strand, which went to the rearmost lower mark, and then the one in front of that to its hole cut out there, and then working bend towards the front, we come up to the cabane and we go to the rearmost cabane, and then we'll come here with the foremost one. And once those are in, then I'll take these down and tie them off at the landing gear. So you work back to front. That way you're not trying to reach through wires that are already established and trying to make connections. You just can't make it make them that way. You're gonna start catching on these wires with your tweezers and having all kinds of problems. So the way this works, let me see if I can make this happen with a stand. Bear with me for a second. Once again, I'm not adept at all this. See if I can find a position here for this camera that will allow you to see what I'm doing. I don't know if that's it or not, but that's as good as it gets here. Okay, so what we want to do is pull this wire out, capture it with our tweezers here at the end, and just actually what I'm going to do is first, before I do that, you want to wet the end of it. Let's get it started. Get it going into its receptacle here, and then once we can start feeding that in, oh, lost it. Yeah, we might have to. A lot of times when these holes are drilled out and then you're sanding over them and doing all kinds of stuff, they clog, and you're painting. You typically don't drill these out until after you've painted, but any number of things can happen. You may prefer to drill into an unpainted surface. I wait till all the painting and stuff is done, just for that reason, that I don't want it to be clogged. All right, I think this will feed now. So what you're going to do is pull the slack out, put all of it down here at the receptacle, and just start feeding that in. And I don't know if you can see how that's going, but that's feeding in. Here, I'll bring up the camera. So you see, we're holding out this, taking out the slack, putting it all down here at the receptacle. Hopefully that's in focus. And then we run the last bit of it into that opening with our tweezers. So now we're close, and it's not going to settle back out because the line isn't heavy enough for it to fall back. So it's in there pretty good. Then what I do is typically is the end of this toothpick. You see how these are the pointier toothpick? We want to roll the blade across right about there. And that's not how I do it, but that's what you do, is you roll this across here. You don't want to cut all the way through, you just want to score it. I don't know if you can see that little scoring line there. So you make that deep enough without going through the tip of the toothpick, you score it real nice, and then you just want to crack it, and you get it cracked off like that. And what you're going to do is put a little bit of glue on the end of this thing, and as soon as you get that line tight with the tweezers, you're going to jam that in there as a capture. So we'll put a little bit of glue on this thing. I don't know if you can see that, if it's in focus or not, but that's what you do there. Probably not that much glue. We'll take a little bit of that off. You don't need much on there. You're just going to capture the line. It's all going to soak into the balsa. Get it started, and then send it right on in there. And sometimes it'll hang in the opening. You just have to drive it in with the tweezers like that. Use the blunt end of the toothpick just to get it as far as I can. And you've got a pretty tight rigging line there. Alright, that's how that works. So I'm going to finish this up. I guess I can show you the fuel lines I put in. 2 fuel lines. They run down from the wing tank to feed the engine. Those are just cut with guitar string, you know, chicka chow. And then so because it looks like it's wound wound brass wiring or brass tubing, which is essentially what the fuel line is. Okay, talk to you later.